Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We are so glad you're with us to stay curious. Hope you got your wallet with you, your credit card, debit card, whatever, because we're going to be talking about our auction Saturday, where there's over 350 items up for grabs. Some of them are behind me here on our green screen. We're going to talk about these two items there, the famous Apollo 14 patch that the backup crew did with the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. There's up for grabs. You can own that. You can own a press kit from Apollo 14 up there. And we're going to talk about a bunch of other items that you can buy to help support the American Space Museum. You know that for over 20 years we've been preserving the birth of the American space age as the U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation. In our beautiful park, just a few blocks from where I sit in downtown Titusville, is truly a one-of-a-kind homage to the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts, as their handprints are in bronze out there. And we have Neil and Buzz here in the American Space Museum and some others. But this is what we're all about. We started selling space workers their nameplates up there on pylons and bricks to support it. And they would bring in boxes and say, my dad worked for NASA. Here's his box of stuff we found in the closet after he passed away. Or here's my mom's stuff. She worked out there and's retired now and moved away. So literally a lot of these items come into our door and we get to keep what we can for our museum, and the multiples we sell back to you space lovers. Now, a lot of this stuff is also consigned. So, and you get a healthy cut of the consignment at the auction. So whether we get a big piece or a little piece of every auction lot, it means a lot to support our proud nonprofit, the American Space Museum and the U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation. So to set all that up here, and you're going to see a lot of cool memorabilia. Marty Winkle, my co-producer for our approaching 850 episodes here, Marty. Marty's no stranger to the auctions, and we actually love watching them in the comfort of your home or whatever you're doing on your smartphone or smart tablet. And just go to the American Space Museum, auctions at the top. But I'm going to show you a quick QR code that you'll be able to hit and take it right to everything there. But first of all, surprise, surprise, it's great to be Marty and me sometimes in a space museum, as we had a surprise visit from this astronaut, Mike Baker, all right, and his nickname is Bakes. Mike Baker, you couldn't be any nicer to Marty and I. He signed a whole bunch of things, like him in the commander seat there of STS-81. Mike was twice a commander. Whoop. Well, there we go. Was twice a commander and twice a pilot there. Pilot in 43 and 52, and then commander of 68 and 81 that docked with the Mir Space Station. We, of course, did talk to Mike, enjoyed the conversation with him on that we recorded, that we will let you know well in advance when we're going to air Mike's Stay Curious interview. That was a lot of fun. He is a very important person to the Russian Space Agency connection with NASA in the 1990s when we were sending American astronauts on the Soyuz spacecraft. So, delightful guy. There he is. I got my hook 'em horns up there. He's a graduate of the University of Texas. University of Texas. Grew up in Lemoore, California. And a Navy captain, and you're going to enjoy the conversation with Mike Bakes Baker, and we will announce that next week. Don't know if we'll show it next week, Marty, because next week is Apollo 11 week, okay? And you know I go crazy about the first moon landing, and so we're going to do that and go crazy. And Marty, we'll have to have a production meeting and see what approach we should take this year. But anyway, Space Memorabilia auction, like I was talking about, all these items up there for sale, particularly that Convair with the worker and the dragon. That's from like 1958, a pocket guide of just all kinds of metric and formulas and things like that. And you can own things like a sheet that has got a piece of all 5 orbiters that was in orbit, either foil or maybe a piece of a payload bay. There's all kinds of frizzy stuff they call it that was part of the protection system. So, but these cards are nice to have an attraction, or you can maybe buy a whole collection from the legendary pilot for Grumman, Glenn Kingsley's decal collection. These were decals that were found in his possessions when he passed away. So a lot of history, and we're going to talk about that. But first of all, poor Pluto. Okay, 8 years ago in 2015, we saw Pluto surface for the first time. And I remember, Marty, thinking back when the New Horizons probe was launched to Pluto, that I hope I live long enough to see what Pluto looked like. And that was like maybe 15 years ago. In 2015 is when this happened. So that was so you never know how long you're going to live. In fact, I had a heart attack, and so I was glad to recover from that and get to see what the surface of Pluto looked like, because it's dear to my heart, as Clyde Tombaugh discovered it in 1930, and so it was demoted from a planet. It was a planet when when New Horizons was launched to Pluto, but during the 9-year journey, they demoted it to a classification called dwarf planet. Here's the New Horizons probe going to an artist's conception of what they thought Pluto might look like, which ended up pretty accurate, by the way. And when New Horizons went by Pluto, it came up from the bottom of it, so to speak, and like a bullseye. Pluto and the orbits in blue are its small moons, but there's one moon, Karan, it's 1/4 the size of Pluto. 9th planet discovered on edge of solar system, first found in 84 years. These were the headlines in 1930 when Clyde Tombaugh, a young astronomer at the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, compared photographs taken on glass plates, all right, in the 1920s to see objects moving, and he detected that one of those movements was in our solar system and ended up to be Pluto. And then in 2015, New York Times publishes this photo of Pluto's surface on the left, and in 1965, 50 years earlier, it had printed on the same day the first photos of Mars transmitted from Mariner 5 or Mariner 4, and Mariner 4 going by Mars on the 15th of July. We'll have some things posted about that on our Facebook tomorrow. But New York Times, showing the first time we saw the surface of Mars up close, and 22 pictures as we flew by at 30,000 miles an hour. Well, they managed to get a couple hundred pictures of that fast flyby of Pluto, not in orbit, it just flew by it. There is the man Clyde Tombaugh, who I got to meet several times. This is a poster that Clyde kind of had a tour at the end of his life there, and I bought that poster and got him to autograph it, and there's our astronomy club there. I'm in the suit and tie. Clyde's autograph there. It's faded there, where he said discovered Pluto on February 17th, 1930, and then they confirmed it and announced it about a month later. So ashes of Clyde Tombaugh are on the New Horizons that went by another deep Kuiper Belt object, they call them, and is headed to its third object here maybe in a couple years. Well, Marty, before New Horizons went by Pluto, this is the best picture we had of Pluto, all right, from the Hubble Space Telescope. And you're probably surprised, wow, that's the best that the Hubble telescope could do? And, well, yeah, because Pluto, 1, is 4 billion miles away, and 2, it is pretty small, smaller than our moon, which is about 2,100 miles across, and Pluto is about 1,600 miles across. So that was the best it got. But boy, did we see some fabulous images. Look at Pluto there. This heart-shaped object is called the Tomball region, and you're looking at a lake of frozen nitrogen at 380 some degrees below zero. Now, this isn't the way the human eye would see it. It's enhanced with some of the characteristics of the minerals and gas properties on Pluto. But a dynamic world, it's literally a slush ball that has mountains floating on it made of harder nitrogen and some rocky elements involved in it. And when you're a planetary scientist and you're looking at objects in the solar system, the first thing you look for are craters, because craters will give you an indication of how old an object is, particularly when you see craters on top of craters on top of craters, like we do on the moon. Nothing eroded those craters for billions of years that we see on the moon. Thus, from about 100 miles to down to just a few feet across, all the craters that have hit the moon have impact evidence. Well, on a world that doesn't have craters, we know that that surface is being rejuvenated. And bingo, something is rejuvenating the surface of Pluto so far away where the sun just looks like a very, very bright star in the sky, barely casts a shadow. That's the incredible thing about New Horizons taking these pictures. 30,000 miles an hour with like a candlelight to shine on the surface of the planet. So technology is amazing when it comes to planetary probes. And believe you me, they pioneered all of our cameras that are on our smartphones in our pockets. But look at that beautiful object there. Not many craters. So something is rejuvenating that surface. And Pluto also has an atmosphere. Look at the layers of that atmosphere. This is one of the most incredible photos of the space age. Lonely little Pluto. There you see like a lake, a couple rivers in there maybe that are flowing, and these mountains are so cold and just kind of like spongy on top of this lake of slush. Here's one of the close-ups of that lake. Once again, going at 30,000 miles an hour. These are like convection cells that we see on Earth of ice. So something is causing these to well up and freeze from deep inside of Pluto. We need to go there and find out. Look at the mountains there, Marty, with the frost on them as we're looking down on top of it. What a dynamic world Pluto is. There is this ratio to the Earth. The moon is bigger than Pluto, not shown here. Karan is its largest satellite, a fourth the size of it, and they interact. In fact, the top of Karan you see there is dark. They think that's from an interaction with Pluto, that they're actually exchanging material. And the other drawn just to scale and not their images, moons of Pluto are named after Greek gods of the underworld, or Hades. Well, some astronomers like Neil deGrasse Tyson and scientists, or Bill Nye the Science Guy, they don't ever want to see Pluto become a planet again, and that's okay. Although a lot of us think, ha ha ha, I'm saying to this meme here, but many of us think that it should be grandfathered in. So never forget Pluto, as we revealed 8 years ago, it to be quite a dynamic member of our solar system. Well, let's get to the auction here real quick. Marty, any comments from anybody?
Yeah, Sammy Orange wants to know what time launch is tonight, and it'll be 12:10 a.m.
12:10 a.m. is the launch tonight. A batch of the new generation Starlinks, so that'll be interesting to go up. I didn't get up for it last night, Marty, but it went down to T-minus minute or 30 seconds, something like that. They called it off and didn't announce why. So yes, SpaceX launching another set of their satellites that are doing good. Those satellites are reaching parts of Earth that don't have access to internet and things like that. So look forward to that. I will be seeing that one tonight. Thanks for the question on that. Well, here's the QR code. Tell you a little bit about our auctions while you're fumbling around there to put it in your camera so you can follow it tomorrow. I'll be following it. We do not do this live anymore at the American Space Museum. Kind of used to be a big event, but as so many things after the COVID pandemic, people are comfortable now in their homes, and certainly things have happened that it's not live per se, except you're going to see the lots come up, and you'll see the indication of bidding. You will not hear the bidder, Chuck Jeffrey, but Chuck has been doing this for about 7 years. This is auction number 26, and this is what keeps the doors open and pays the bills. 4 or 5 times a year we're doing these auctions, and believe you me, you can get some good bargains. If you don't get a good bargain, you've got some great space memorabilia that I'm going to tell you seems to increase in value no matter how old it gets. I love, and here's some Apollo 11 stuff I threw up there. While I was thinking about it, I just wanted to mention that when I watched the show on PBS, Antiques Antiques Roadshow, they always show an item and if it's gone up or down in value the last 5 or 10 years. And when they do that with space memorabilia, it always goes up. So it's increasing in value. Some stuff has really gotten expensive, though, like above my head here. We call those the visor shot in the business. Buzz Aldrin in the crater on the moon, and Neil taking that famous picture of him, and Neil's in the visor with lunar module number 5 that Marty worked on when he was a Grumman electrical engineer here at the Cape. But that without Buzz's autograph could go for $300 or $400, and the one with could go for $1,000. Now, if it had red letters on it, official NASA internal memo red letters is what those mean, then that would almost double the price of these things. So pictures of Eagle on the lunar surface there that Neil took could go for $200, $300, $400 very easily. Those 8x10s is their original photographic prints that come out of the Johnson City Space Lab. They are A Kodak paper on the back. The letter A is important. So we have things like Gemini. Oh, by the way, just there, get your Apollo stuff. There's plenty of Apollo 11 stuff as we celebrate the 54th anniversary of the moon landing next week. So have something to brag about. Now, we've got everything from every program. There's a lot of unmanned things. This is how you'll see them. That's lot 25 on the left, vintage Gemini program transfer decals, all right? And $100 to $200 is what Chuck Jeffrey says it'll go for. Look at that Gemini 2 heat shield, lucite, all right? $600 to $800 item. The current bid on it's $225. All right. These are estimates that Chuck has put in because our collection analyst, and Chuck's also our chief executive officer, or chief operating officer, by the way. Chuck has his own business. He's a volunteer doing all these things. But that's part of the heat shield. Now, that's pretty rare to have. So that's why you see some big bucks for that. The patches there, those are hard to find that are of the era of 1966 and 67, all right? That was the 2 years that we launched the Gemini. So you're pushing 60 years in existence, all right, for some of these things. Here's a group of shuttle things. You've got a signed by 50 astronauts. That was given to a executive secretary, Cheryl Armstrong. That is worth $500 to $700. The bid's already up to $150. You may bid now. Go with that QR code I showed you, American Space Museum. Log in at the top of our website to auctions, and you can bid now. Now, let's say I can go up to $300. The bid's $150, but all I can go on that bid, lot 309 of the shuttle launch photograph signed by 50 astronauts is like, well, I'm going to go is $300. Well, I can put $300 in, but if nobody bids more than $250, then I get it for $250. So what the bid you put in is you're not going to be charged if it doesn't reach that high. So shuttle tile with the press kit, you got things like that. Flown crew patch award. We do a lot of things like that. Here's some rare photos of the vehicle lunar landing trainer, all right, called the Flying Bedstead, signed by some of the astronauts. The lunar module patches are, they're not so rare, but they're hard to come across. Folks, these aren't things you're going to go to a space store at Kennedy Space Center and see, okay? Or even our wonderful memorabilia shop here at the American Space Museum. Although we are going to try to start cycling some of this stuff into our cases. We do have a case that's got astronaut autographs and a few other things and some things on the wall. Here's a personal crew patch. Now, there's a lot of innuendo. There's a lot of things to collect. And you can't collect it all. So I'm saying there's innuendos about things you do collect. And patches are a complete area of mystery and imagination sometimes. There's even counterfeit patches that in the 80s and 90s, some people very unscrupulously copied patches as well as autographs. So autographs and patches are sometimes very hard to decide if they're real or not. As far as patches are crude patches. Jack Lausma and Fullerton were given a stack in plastic of maybe 50 patches. And here, these are your patches for your mission, and they put them in a locker and flew them, and then they come home and they give them to everybody. And there are certain little details in the patch that may say that it's a crew patch. The crewman's initials might be in it. There's all kinds of things like that, and there's a couple websites where you can figure all that out and begin your collection. Same way with autographs. Buyer beware, buyer beware. In fact, we had Chuck on a program, Marty, when we were doing it old school ways, and he destroyed some Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin autographs that were proven to be fake. A couple things you look for on autographs are a little dot at the end where the automatic pen lifted out. There are two types of photographs, real ones and then auto pen. Auto pen are just that. A facsimile of your signature is duplicated by an automatic pen. This was created for politicians and things like that had to sign too many things that they just didn't have time to do. So to have a lithograph of the Apollo 11 signed, if it's signed on the surface of the lithograph by an auto pen, could still be worth $400 or $500. If it was signed by the crew personally, the three Apollo crewmen, Armstrong, Collins, and Aldrin, that'd be $3,000 to $5,000. And I don't know if we have any of those in this auction. Once in a while we do. And then there's also autographs that are part of the printing of the lithograph, and those are the least valuable of all. Sally Ride, boy, if you could get Sally Ride for $200 or $300, that's a bargain. Okay, I'm thinking she's in the $400 or $500 range. Here are some. That's a nice lot. 18. You've got Mercury astronauts signed up there, $400 to $800 each. It looks like Cooper, Carpenter, Glenn, and Deke Slayton. Once in a while, we have some Russian stuff on the right or some Russian pins. But here's a good one. Everything in the auction is put in the order. Mercury stuff at the beginning, then Gemini, then Apollo, and then Shuttle. So if you're just interested in Shuttle stuff, you could probably wait till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Mow your yard, do whatever you need to do, go shopping, because then they'll be into the Shuttle era stuff in about 3 hours. Auction starts at 12, and it'll probably end up about 6 o'clock. So if you're only interested in Mercury Gemini stuff, get on early. You know, an hour and a half, 2 hours in there, Chuck will be into the Apollo stuff. Just imagine it goes about one lot a minute. All right. So he's got over 300 lots. So that's going to be over about 6 hours to do it. You got an Alan Bean painting there, poster it is. You've got an Apollo 14 original press kit. All right. Could go for up to $200. Now, Apollo 14 is the return to flight after the Apollo 13, near disaster. And so if this hadn't gone well, they would have never gone back to the moon if Apollo 14 hadn't been a good flight. And it's a very interesting flight because basically they're all rookies. Alan Shepard, the commander, had 15 minutes of suborbital flight. And then Stu Rosa, he's a rookie. He was going to orbit. He orbited the moon. And then Edgar Mitchell was a rookie, and he walked on the moon with Shepard. So what we have here is the two patches in the middle. You see the Apollo 14 patch on the right with the crew's name on it. Well, the backup crew of Gene Cernan, Engel, and Truly. Now, who was the other one? I forget who the third one was. Joe Engel. Maybe. Can you read what's at the bottom of the beep beep there, Marty? I'm looking at mine. I'm actually looking at a patch here in the middle. The backup crew did a patch that mimicked Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. They were the Roadrunner. The backup crew beat the old Wile E. Coyote to the moon. I think it's Scott. Who is the backup crew to 14? Tom Usiak will probably tell me. All right. So I've actually got one of these that Chuck said might be it's incomplete. All right. And it might be a reject or something like that. But when you notice this, it's good enough to see Wile E. Coyote has got a gray beard for Shepard. Okay. He's got the red is for Schweikert. That's who it was. Rusty Schweikert, Marty, was the backup there. And then, Stu Rosa was redhead. It wasn't Schweikert was the backup. Stu Rosa was redhead. That's why Coyote's red. Shepard was 47 years old, so he's got the gray beard. And the paunch is for Edgar Mitchell's physique. Okay. He didn't like to exercise very much on there. And there's the Roadrunner on the moon and saying beep beep. These were stuffed all over lunar module. Okay, they were all over the place. Everything they opened up, they had a little rickshaw that they pulled on the moon. They would open up the rock bag. There would be some of these in there. They'd open up in the lunar module in orbit, and they'd float out. So you don't know if you're buying one that is actually was on a lunar module. If you're on the surface of the moon, I think there'd be some more documentation with it there. But anyway, that is a cool thing, and this is why you want to own some of this stuff. Let me get back there. What am I doing? This is space history. All right, you're talking about space history when you're talking about the Apollo backup patch there. Who is it, Marty? Evans and Engel. Ron Evans was the backup on there. And so you're talking about space history here. Lot 183 has the beep beep your ass patch that is not confirmed but thought of, that the humorous patch with an unknown origin but is credited by many as a response from the prime crew of Apollo 14 done after the mission, but this is purely speculation. These 4-inch patches are in very good or near mint condition. $200 to $400 they should bring, and the bidding's already up to $70. If you say, "Boy, I'm going to try to get those for $100," all right, and the bidder at 70 doesn't go any further, you get it for 80. Okay, so have fun with the auction. Here's a couple other things. Apollo 17, Snoopy as the safety mascot of the Apollo program appears on a lot of things after the Apollo 10 mission, when the command module orbiting the moon was called Charlie Brown, and the lunar module that went within 9 miles of the surface was called Snoopy. And right there in my head, look at my halo of my head in that shiny Kapton foil from Apollo 17. That's yours, Marty.
Yep.
And
it's really LEM 12.
Oh, it's LEM 12? Okay.
Yeah, LEM 12, which was Apollo 17.
Oh, LEM 12, which was Apollo 17. Right. Tail number 12, Apollo 17. Big fat piece of Kapton foil there with the authentication. Those have gone up to $300, $400, $500, and you can't get them anywhere else but our auction. A couple other items that are of interest on the auction here. Again, that poster that you're drawn to immediately is always worth $200. The Snoopy poster, that is almost a must to have in any serious space cave. and plenty of them come up for auction. Almost every auction we have one or in there, and we try to have an auction every quarter. Sometimes we have 5 a year. This is a good one up there at the top, Marty. You can get 6 different astronaut eras bought, autographed. And then there's some rare quarantine Skylab health check stuff in the upper right-hand corner there. Occasionally there's an upper right is some space hardware, and particularly next to Snoopy, that is a piece of the tethered satellite system that was brought back, and so that was space flown. There are COAs, certificates of authenticity, for all of the expensive stuff there. Here's a space flown collection of pictures, autographed, it looks like, by astronauts. Lots of John Glenn stuff is always for sale. And things like the Mir Space Station flag that was flown up to the Mir Space Station and back was commonly given to space workers. There you've got a big pin collection in the middle of Space Shuttle pins, more astronaut autographs. And that is Jay Honeycutt, our good friend, former center director. That is his STS-69 to the Mir Space Station flown crew patch with some pictures around it that he was presented to. So Jay has given that to the American Space Museum to sell, so we get to keep everything out of that. If he wanted to have some money out of that, Chuck negotiates that fee with your kickback as well, over 60%. And if you want to start a collection of autographs, how about every space shuttle mission, all 135 missions, of course, with some deceased astronauts, just not from Challenger and Columbia, but just through life's trials and so forth. There's some, you may have to buy them at our auction to fill in your collection. So once in a while, we'll see one of these go for $600-700 instead of the usual $200 or $300, because they need that to fill in their collection, and 2 people are fighting over it. That's always fun to see. Basically, it's like $25 an astronaut autograph and $100 extra if the whole crew is signed. Okay, so it can range from $150 to $200, $300 for these crew signed lithographs or photographs. Now, photograph is better to have than a lithograph. A lithograph is a printing of a photograph. So always beware, and buyer beware. And, we're always here to help you. Chuck's phone number and his email is on our website. Chuck Jeffrey, our collection analyst, always willing to talk and even see your collection and assess its value for free. So, Marty, we're getting here at the end here of looking at our next auction, and I'm ending it here with a bunch of Skylab stuff because we're in the 50th anniversary of Skylab. You just handed me our watchers today. I see Doug Forrest out there with his number 4 pen. He's blackening them blacks in something he's working on, as he's a pencil artist. Carlton Bailey, hope the line's not too big out there. Say hi to Bakes for us if you're out there getting an autograph and sending some pictures to that astronaut. And Hazel's out there with you, I think, and Bill Whiting are getting autographs from Mike Baker today, who's out to Space Center. Hazel Connie McDaniels. Michael Rose is watching. Thanks, Mike. Jamie Orange, that's a good new name. Ophelia Sauterelle. Hey there, Parisian or French lady there in the Normandy area. Mary Folsom, good that you and your husband Gary are watching today. Dave Stengy's watching. Tom Usiak. Tom Celentano's licking his chops. Neil 1030 is watching. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, Tom Celentano, you usually buy some good stuff to support our museum. And Tommy McCoolidge Miller, it's in Indiana, staying curious today. Will you buy something and you get it for $100, which would be cheap? You're going to pay $120 plus shipping, because we put a 20% museum charity fee on that. That's your help for us, okay? So don't squawk about that. If you don't want to pay it, please don't bid, all right? But that's how our charity auction works. That's how we buffer the margin a little bit so we outright can make some money, because the margins are pretty thin when we have a consigner, an auctioneer, and an auction house all get a piece of the pie, and you pay for shipping. So if you're buying something heavy, and we will work with you on some of the shipping arrangements there, but international shipping has sometimes gotten pretty ridiculous. So there's a bunch of Skylab stuff that's up for grabs. 50th anniversary of Skylab, particularly those health and stabilization program passes and reports are rare. Upper right-hand corner, lot 256. Chuck has $400 for those on there. So, well, like Chuck always says, bid often and bid till it hurts, okay? But we know that you won't be disappointed in things that you buy. True Space Memorabilia, and we are proud to have done this now for 5 years very well. 6 years about we started doing this, but for the past 5 years, this has been a serious fundraiser for the American Space Museum, and we're proud that the way it's been conducted and the type of items we've had have made us truly one of the top 5 auction houses for this type of things in the world. And many of these items that we've sold have reached some of their highest value prices throughout the world, particularly some of the photographs of Apollo 11, the true Kodak A series of prints of the visor shot and other famous pictures that you know so well. So check it out. Here is again how to get involved. I checked it out myself and got it loaded up off this QR code in my smartphone, so I can be watching it. It is not live at the museum. It is online only, and you'll just see the lots as they come up. So check them out tonight. Place your pre-bids, register with your debit or credit card, and help our humble American Space Museum. So, Marty, we've had another great week. We've had some fun along the way, and interviewed an astronaut off hours, Mike Baker, that will be broadcasting that soon for your viewing pleasure. So, anything to button up over there, my friend?
Nope, we're all buttoned up.
All right. Well, we are going to button up this place and take the weekend off. It's supposed to be one of the hottest weekends in Florida in a long time, with heat index could read 110 degrees. So I got my lawn mowed this morning, and I'm going to take it easy inside Saturday watching the auction, and Sunday, who knows, just having some Florida fun. So hope that you all are safe and having fun wherever you live. We are so grateful that you take your time to watch Stay Curious, and tell your friends also that it's the only place where they can constantly hear about shuttle history, astronaut birthdays, and the amazing accomplishments of the American space program. So thank you again. Until next time, I'm Marquette saying I can't wait to see you to bridge the space between us.